All right, everybody. Jennifer asked me to make this file that you see on the screen more pretty. I guess that's the best way. And it's taken us this long to get to it. So she finally sent me one that she loves and that I love. So here we go. As you notice, this is a .cr2 file, which means it's a raw file. So that means that I'm going to have the highest quality possible that she sent. So this is a straight off the camera, nothing done to it file. I'm in Bridge right now, and this is what I do to images. So we'll start out. I double click it. Now it opens inside of Adobe Camera Raw, which, you know, a lot of you guys will go through Lightroom to get to Adobe Camera Raw, but Adobe Camera Raw is what Photoshop, Adobe, whatever, uses to convert a RAW file. There's multiple ways to get to it. You can get to it through Photoshop. I use it through Bridge. And Bridge then allows me to, do some get into Adobe Camera Raw, do some manipulations, and then from there, it allows me to then continue that in Photoshop. And so I'll show you the whole process. Now, I have a bunch of presets already done. One of them is Kirk 101 default, and that's where I typically start. Now, this default does a whole bunch of things. If you notice, to my exposure, contrast, highlights, it does some temperature adjustments, it does some vibrance and saturation adjustments. This is my starting point, and if you would like this preset for your system, it's in the Photoshop tips and tricks section, and I think it's listed as Workflow 2005 or something like that, but I still use it all the way. Here we are, 2018, and I'm still using the same thing, still using the same presets, even though I am using the most current edition of Photoshop. So right off the bat, to me, I look in this area and it seems to be a little too hot, so I'm going to take the highlights down so that brings up a little more detail in this area. I'm going to take the whites down, and that makes it, kind of muddy. All right, I'm going to take the clarity up, and that makes a separation. It's kind of a fancy way of saying adding a little contrast. Now, when I look at this whole image, I see lots of orange. It looks like she maybe even has a little sunburn on her shoulder, all sorts of things. So I'm going to use my little eyedropper, and I'm going to click right here on the background because I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be gray. Now that gets me a little closer. I find it a little green personally, so I'm going to add in, just take out a little bit of green right here on my temperature slider. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of yellow, so that at least gets me a little bit closer. I'm going to crank up my clarity a little bit more. I'm going to increase my contrast a little bit more. Looks like I have to darken it up a little bit even, and maybe take the shadows down a little bit. It's just all sorts of little things. I even think it needs a little bit of dehazing, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna add a few points of that. Let's see where we at now. We're getting closer. Take my highlights down a little bit more. Take my whites down a little bit more. Maybe not too much. Right about there, I think. Maybe I went a little too strong on the temperature. Let's see, shadow, yep, shadow's looking good. Black, yep, that's looking pretty good. And I think this is just shooting style. I feel like it's a little too vibrant and a little too saturated, maybe just a touch. So I'm gonna take those down just a tad. I ended up adding a lot of that back in. So at this point, I typically have a whole bunch of images to work, not just one. So I will then go through those images. So that my normal process, I click done, and then I go to the next image. Well, in this case, we've only got one image. So what happens now is at the top of the screen, let me make this to where y'all can, that's kind of getting cut off. Well, at the top of the screen is Tools, and then Photoshop, and then Image Processor. Once I get done, this is what I do. It then opens up Photoshop, and it opens up this little image processor. If you notice, it's going to process a file from Bridge. And what's going to happen now is it's going to put it in the same location. It's going to convert it to a JPEG with a quality of 12 with an sRGB. We're not going to resize it. We're going to maintain the size that it is. And then I'm going to run an action called KV Workflow 2011 portraiture first run. Again, this is in that thread, the 2005 workflow thread, if you'd like to get this entire sequence of workflow that I'm running through. Then I click run, and then it proceeds to open up that file, do that first set of portraiture, that first action to it, save it off as a JPEG. So now when I go back to that folder, you notice there's a new folder now called JPEG, and now the image has been converted to a JPEG. When I double click it, it opens up in Photoshop. At this point, what I then proceed to do is anything that rubs me the wrong way, I want to fix it. So a few things right off the bat that rub me the wrong way is, I don't know what this is, but it looks like a piece of maybe a lens hood or something. I don't know what this is, but it looks like the thing she's leaning on. That I don't like. So little things like that rub me the wrong way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a crop, and I have a preset. This is my personal preset crop to full frame for the 1DX. So you're just going to get that, Jennifer. And then I'm going to do a little crop in like this. I'm going to pull in a little bit more here. That's going to also, if you notice right back here, it's going to take out that little piece of her sweater. It's going to get her eyes a little closer to the thirds, which is where I like them. And there. Now, I'm starting to really like this image a lot better. Now, some things that now currently make me mad is this piece of hair right here. So I'm going to take my cloning brush, and just as information, hair is a multi-step process. So first I'm going to work on cloning it out. And if it doesn't come out nice and clean, that one actually came out nice and clean, you have to go back and do it again with the rubber stamp or clone tool. Right now I'm using the healing brush. And so I'm just going to go, since I'm zoomed in here, I'm going to go around all to the edges, and I'm going to take out all these little tiny pieces of hair that rub me the wrong way. And, you know, when you do this a lot as information, my goodness, you can do it fast. Now, I'm taking my time right now because I'm trying to explain it to you as I go. Here's some more hairs on this side that I do not like. So these little stray hairs, you can't, as information, you cannot get rid of all of these hairs. And that is because if you do get rid of all of these hairs, then what happens is the person looks like they got a little helmet on their head. So you just can't do that. Now, you see this bump right here and see this dip right here? I don't like that either. So to get rid of those things, what I do is I hit Command or Control, Shift, and then X, and it opens up Liquify. And what I do is I use this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the top, which is a push left tool, and whenever you go up, everything goes left, and whenever you go down, everything goes right. And so I just simply come in through here, and just like that, even out those bumps in her hair. So watch, before, after, before, after. And so that just cleans that up. Now, then I like to zoom in, and I start doing the same thing I just did to the hair, I'll do to the skin. So I'm going to use the healing brush right in here. Take out some of these little mix-ups and mess-ups. These little extra stray hairs here. I don't like that. Now, this is not my client. I'm doing this for someone that's on the Pro Forum. And they asked me to do a typical retouch to a client. And they sent me one of their files. Alright, it's one of the things we do on the Pro Forum. We help each other out. So, I would have had a conversation with this client as to whether they like this mole. See this mole right here? They may like it. If Jennifer finds that the customer did like it and they wished it would have not been removed, then you can just go ahead and put it back. It's not that complicated. Just post in this thread on the Pro Forum how to do that, and I'll be happy to do that. Show you exactly how you can put that right back. It's not that complicated. So I go in, zoomed in here, and I'm taking out all the little bumps and imperfections. Now, in her case, you see it right here. This looks like a bra strap. mark. So we're just going to clean all that up. We're just going to take some nice clean area and we're going to rub it down just like that until it's all nice and smooth. And she don't have that mark anymore. Just like that. Now, here's a cool little trick for you guys who maybe have clients that come in and they have a sunburn. I don't think this is a sunburn. I guess it could be a sunburn, but it looks more like she just has an irritation here. What you do is you take a paintbrush, change the mode right here. It usually sits on normal. Change it to color. Drop the opacity to somewhere around 30%. Okay. Then when you're in this mode, let's see, we got to make, let's see, opacity 30%. Let's reduce the size of this brush. Yeah, right there to about that big. Then what I want you to do is hold down your Alt key and click somewhere away from this red area on normal colored skin. And if you notice, what that does is that made a sample of that skin color. Now again, we're in color mode, 30%. Now when you rub over this red area, all you're doing is changing the color to that skin color. Now you're only doing it in 30% increments. So if you, after one rub like that, you say, oh, it's still a little too red right here. Well, then you rub right here. But down at the bottom, I think it's looking pretty good. And then I think that's pretty close. Let's look at it full. Yeah, that's better than it was. So now it's starting to look more like regular skin as opposed to that really weird red skin that she had before. Okay. Next, I like to play in the eyes. Let's zoom in on the eyes. And I like to get really super zoomed in on the eyes. And here's a neat little trick as information. You always want to be able to see both eyes at the same time. So as to make sure that whatever you do to one, you do to the other. Now, if you really get zoomed in, sometimes you can see some of the dead giveaways as to what a photographer does. This looks some kind of a reflector. I think I see Jennifer right here. I think that's you, and I think this is your main light. I don't know. Post on the Pro Forum and tell me if I'm right. There's what looks like a main light, or at least that looks like the primary light source, and then some kind of a reflector here, maybe even a reflector here. A lot of times in the eyes you can get really zoomed in, and it's the dead giveaway as to how an image was created. Let me reset my color swatches, go back to my paintbrush tool, change it from color to normal, and put my opacity back to 100%. Then what I want to do is I want to get a brush a little bit bigger than the actual pupil, and I want to rub right there, right in the middle. Make that pupil nice and black, okay? So that now you have a nice dot right there, nice hard dot right down the middle. Change now to the Dodge tool, mid-tones, 100%, unchecked protected tones, and I want you to make this primary highlight a little bit brighter, right here, a little bit brighter. Then I want you to go to the opposite side of that primary, and I want you to give us a little swoosh like this. See, just a little swoosh. Then hold down your Alt key, and this brush changes from the Dodge to the burn. And I want you to burn in that circle, that blackness, just like that. And so now those eyes really pop at you as opposed to the way they were before. Now, just looking at this image, when I get it real small like this on the screen, you know, it looks like you got a little vignetting going on here, but then right here, because of the way I cropped it, it loses it a little bit. So I'm going to switch to my burn tool, and I'm going to take it down really low, somewhere about to 18-20%. It's on protected tones and mid-tone, and I'm just going to give us a little burn in right around in here, just to even out that vignette a little bit. Looks like to make it to where it forces your eye into the subject a little bit more than it was before. So right, like, how about like that? That's starting to look good. Okay, now here is the on the Pro Forum. There's an action that I call the Perfect Soft, and this is just my primary action that we created several years ago. And what this action does is it just does everything. It runs the whole world, and so it stops and it asks you for input. So I'm going to run that action now. First thing it does is it runs portraiture at a preset amount, but then it stops. on the subject. Now I have my portraiture set up this way with a black mask, okay? And you click your little eyedropper with a plus tool, and I click on the skin in various places so that I make sure the skin is selected. Then I click OK, and portraiture will run. Then it stops and it says, okay, how much percent of that portraiture that just ran do you want on this subject? It defaults to 40%, but in this case, because it's kind of a glamour image, I want it a little bit higher, so I'm going to crank it up to 80%. Then I click OK. Then it runs another action. So this is like actions within actions. It runs another action that adds a little warmth to the subject. Watch the subject. This is a lot of warmth. This is no warmth. And so it asks, how much warmth do you want to add in? So in this case, we're going to probably be around 20%. Then it adds some snap, what I call snap. Watch, here's a lot of snap. Here's no snap. So it asks again, about how much snap do you want to add to this image? And I'm going to say around 25 roughly is a nice snap amount. Click OK. Then it runs levels. And what I want you to do when it runs levels is hold down your Alt key, okay? And then press the left side slider. Everything's going to go white. And when you start seeing a little bit of detail, you start seeing those eyes come in, I want you to back off to about there. Then you go to the right side slider, and when you start seeing the skin come in, back off to it's just right at the edge. That is a perfect levels adjustment. Before, after, before, after. And so now you get that nice, clean image, looks super sharp, but soft at the same time. And that is the process. Jennifer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this picture, and I'm going to, post it to Pro Forum, but I'm going to send you the high-res finished image so that in case you want to use that for the client, you're more than welcome to do so. And that is the process. And like I said, if you do it enough, you get to where you are super, super fast. File, save. And it doesn't take long. So I hope this helps you. I hope this helps somebody on the Pro Forum, and maybe it'll at the very least direct you to that thread where you can download all these actions, and you can download this entire process, including movies that show you every step of the way how to put it on your system and exactly what you need to do to make this work on your computer. Take care, gang. I hope this helps. Y'all be good. See you online.